Okay, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, what
All
are we
right,
making today?
We're going to make Feteer Meshaltet.
Feteer Meshaltet?
Feteer Meshaltet. Think of
Feteer
this.
Meshaltet.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, think of this as the Egyptian puff pastry.
You think I was a native speaker?
Huh?
You think I was a native speaker?
Yes. Okay, so Feteer Meshaltet is basically a very basic dough of flour, water, and salt, just like strudel dough, just like phyllo dough. But the difference between, this is a cross between strudel and puff pastry, because the difference is this is going to get stretched out like strudel, but it's going to get folded up with layers of butter in between the layers of dough to create almost like the puff pastry effect that you would get once you put it in the oven and the steam kind of forces those layers apart. So the very basic Feteer Meshaltet, very popular street food. It's made with maybe just some powdered sugar and honey on top, so it's a sweet type. But there's also another very popular type, which is filled with sausage.
Which would be called a savory type.
Which would be called a savory Feteer Meshaltet.
Thank you.
But anyway, so these are very popular street foods in Egypt. You'll find people making it in the street all the time. They're, I guess, commonly or lovingly known as Feteer flyers. They whip the dough around in the air, kind of like pizza artists do. I'm not going to be whipping it today because we're going to make it simple. Maybe I'll whip it once.
Are you scared?
No, maybe I'll whip
Come
it.
on, a little
I'll
bit
whip
scared.
it once. I'll whip it once.
Right.
Okay, but we're going to make it simple for people at home to make it because it is super simple. In fact, the dough, just once you mix it and knead it, you rest it for about a half hour to an hour, so it's super simple. I actually had this in the fridge, but I took it out about an hour to go just to let it come to room temperature so it relaxes a little bit. And clarified butter.
Clarify what clarified butter is.
All right, so clarified butter, also called ghee in Indian, in Hindi, or samna in Arabic, is butter that's melted down. The milk products, which is the whey, and the water is removed.
Any curds? Curds and whey? Remember the old Little Miss Muffet? Okay. I'm sorry.
So then you're left with clarified butter, which is very soft at room temperature. I did not heat this up. I just took it out of the jar, so it's soft at room temperature, and it's great. It's what I use for baklava and for Feteer exclusively. I don't use clarified butter for everything. It has its uses. Anyway, let's get going because this is going to take. Let's get to it.
And we might do some fast forwarding on the high speed,
Right, of the boring parts, right. So I'm just going to take a little clarified butter and put it on my counter here.
As you would do with flour, so it would
right,
won't
there's
stick
not going to
to
be
the
any extra
surface.
flour here. No, there's not. We don't want extra flour. We don't want this dough to get very tough. We want it very supple. So you'll see.
But the clarified butter would work as like you'd sprinkle flour on
to
the
keep it from
countertop.
sticking. Yes, correct. All right, so we're going to take our dough here. Just get a little bit of butter on all sides. Pat it down a little bit, and then take our rolling pin and give it a little more clarified butter.
Yes, ma'am. Look at that.
Okay.
Good. Looking like you're making a pizza right now.
Yeah, you want me to give it one flip? All right, let's see if I know how to do
Is this the flyer?
This is the flyer, yes.
Feteer flyer. Here we go.
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Flip.
Nope, that wasn't right. Let me do it one more time. One more time, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I have to crisscross my hands like something like that.
Okay. You're not a professional Feteer flyer, correct?
Yeah, I'm not a professional Feteer flyer, but that's the idea. All right. So the rest of this, we are going to just stretch like a strudel. So a strudel, you would have the benefit of flour on your hands, and you'd stretch it like this. We just have to lift, stretch, but we're not lifting just from the edges. We want to lift from the center because we don't want to just stretch out the edges and then have a thick center. So we're going to lift and pull, lift and pull. People do this different ways. Some people do their fateer by doing like 7 or 5 or whatever different balls of dough, and then they do one at a time and layer it on top of each other.
So flat, they roll it flat, and
right.
But this way it gets really thin, right?
It gets really thin. So I'm
Thinner
gonna,
the better, correct?
well, yes and no. It gets a little bit difficult to manipulate when it's too thin. So we want it pretty thin, but we also, like yesterday I did it super thin, and then it was hard to fold, because we ultimately need to fold this. We're not going to roll it like a strudel.
Gotcha.
So, and then, you know, we've got a little tiny hole here. That doesn't matter. It's toward the edge. It's all going to get folded up anyway, but we want to stop before we get too many holes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to lift and stretch, lift and stretch, lift and stretch, and then we want to just stick it to the counter a little bit to help us keep some traction here while we're stretching. So as you can see, I'm lifting and sticking it to the counter a little bit.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Looks good. No tears so far, it looks like. Well done.
I've got a tiny hole here,
Okay.
but I'm not worried about it. Those holes are not going to really matter. So this is very similar to strudel, if you've stretched a strudel. And similar to how I would make a strudel, I make sure that I use my best flour for this. So I'm going to use like King Arthur flour, all purpose, but not generic, because you have a more reliable and higher protein content in King Arthur. So
Which makes a lot of difference.
Makes a lot of difference. When I've tried to make strudel or thin doughs like this with generic flour, I get so much more tearing. It's just not a sturdy dough. Alright, so I think I'm about done, because you can see the table through this, can you not?
Yes, I can.
So I'm pretty happy with that.
And only one tiny little tear, which won't matter at all. Because it's going to be folded over and over.
Right, and like I said, it's a little easier to manipulate if it's not too thin. Alright, so now we cover the whole thing in clarified butter.
Butter everywhere, but not a drop to drink. What's that from? Oh, it's a little, you know.
Water.
You remember
it's supposed
water?
to be water.
I know, but you know what that's from? Come on.
Trying.
History lesson in literature.
Okay, just a second. I can't think of it right
It's
now.
about an albatross around somebody's neck.
Alright.
He was an ancient mariner.
Okay.
It's called the Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Alright.
Remember now?
Why don't you just tell me so I can focus on this?
Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Oh, okay.
You really don't listen to me when I talk when you're busy, do you?
No, I really don't.
You just kind of I don't know, respond with a yes.
I'm massaging the dough, okay? I'm massaging the dough. So I really just need you to be quiet right now.
Massage.
Alright. We are covered in clarified butter. Believe it or not, we're going to be adding more with each fold.
Probably high speed this right now, huh? Because this takes a while. To me, this is a little tedious, right?
Yes, we're going to high speed.
So
you can stop talking so that I can high speed it.
You go ahead. Let's high speed.
Okay, we're back.
We're back after high speed. Is everybody exhausted?
So we removed, So we removed the thick edges.
And you save the thick edges you remove, do you not? Or can
hang on
you?
a second. Let me talk to you in a second. You always love to talk to me right when I'm doing something critical. So I'm trying not to get thick edges on here. I'm trying to keep them smooth and not overlapping each other so that we have a smooth finish. And they're going to meet in the middle. Looks good. All right. So
let me guess. More butter.
more butter.
I get the sense when we're doing these things that you really don't like me all that much.
I love you, but at times when you're talking to me and I'm trying to focus on baking, you're just getting my nerves in the way.
Oh, I see.
All right, now
I
the other
apologize.
side. The other side. Okay, so they've met in the middle now.
More butter, more butter.
I started with about 200 grams of butter, so we're gonna probably use all of that, but we don't need as much in the subsequent fold as we did in the beginning. Because it's getting pretty narrow, so we don't need it to get even narrower. And a little bit more butter. And then we fold in triangles like we're folding up a flag. All right, so we're going to
use more butter.
butter our dish. Which probably doesn't need it, honestly. But okay. All right, and then we're going to put this in here, and we're going to let it rest. Okay, for about 10 minutes because we've stretched it a lot, and it needs to relax now, and it'll make it easier for me to then press it out to the edge of the pan, and then we're going to put it in the oven.
All right, stick with us. We'll be back.
Okay.
We're back.
Okay, so now I've let it rest for about 10 minutes, and this is very simple. We're just going to press it down into the edges of the pan.
I'd like you to tilt that up after you're done pressing.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
There you go, thank
I
you.
don't want it to slide out. There's so much butter in there.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're going to put it in the oven for about 20 minutes. I've tried different temperatures. So yesterday, so 350 is way too low, okay? So you can never steam layers of pastry and have them puff adequately at 350.
Well, of course not. Who would try that?
Okay.
Yeah.
So 500 yesterday I did. It was a little bit on the crispy side for me, but still good. You had that one.
That was good.
And then I did 450, which I was happier with. I'm going to try 400 today and see how it turns out. I might like it even better.
Experimentation.
Okay. I'll be back in about 20 minutes.
20 minutes later.
Okay. So I took it out of the oven.
We're back.
Oh, we're back.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. I took it out of the oven, and then I immediately basted it with a little bit more clarified butter. As you can see, we used about, well, I started with 200 grams. I didn't use all of it, so I would say I used about 150 grams of clarified butter. And then I quickly wrapped it up in a towel so that it can soften up a little bit. So usually we're eating it like on the softer side and not on the crunchy side, but if you get it straight from the oven, it's going to be on the crunchy side. If you like it to be soft, then what I do is wrap it up in a towel and then in a bread bag and leave it overnight. And so you can eat it the next day. It's nice and soft. So, but now we're going to look at it. And
the reveal.
The great reveal, yes. So I'm going to show you these layers here. Okay, so I've got some great layers there.
Here, give me that. I will bring it up to the camera. Layers, layers, layers. Look at that. That looks beautiful. That looks beautiful. Wonderful.
Okay, and then we're going to throw some powdered sugar on there.
And then you're going to have your husband try some.
Right. So look, the layers.
They are there.
What do you think about this one compared to the one yesterday? I did a little bit higher heat.
Oh, they're both good.
No difference for you?
No difference. They could use a little more butter, I think.
Huh?
I'm joking, of course. So come on. Dude, it's swimming in butter.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that one.
Good job, honey.
Okay, thanks. All right. Have fun making your Feteer Meshaltet.
I think it's pronounced Feteer Meshaltet.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.